All right. So calling to order, gavel. I don't have a gavel. I have fingernails. All right. So Bob is going to watch the waiting room for me, which I
Yeah.
appreciate. We are recording, it looks like. And so I'm going to sort of be trying to use my agenda here. Starts out greetings by chapter chair, and I added remember to record. So good. I'm on the way here. Does everybody here know each other? I know we tend to do introductions maybe more often than we need to. I think I know everybody here, but I think we're good
Yeah.
mostly. Does everybody know Paul? Paul, wave, you're outside.
Hello, everybody. I'm in New York right now, and it's about to be Manhattan where the sun sets.
You need more
Oh,
volume, Paul.
East-west.
Where is he?
But anyways, I'm stationed in the Army here in New York for like another 3 days, and then moving back home to Minnesota. For Twin Cities. So.
yeah, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I know you've been organizing the Minnesotans, so that will come up for sure. But I don't want you to miss Manhattan Henge, so it's really cool that this is the day. Let's see. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about was chapter office discussion. Right now, the structure we have, which I think is a good structure, is we've got kind of a leadership team. I became chapter chair kind of by acclamation or whatever in 2022 at the beginning of May. But they've made it clear at headquarters that they want some kind of an election thing at least every 2 years, just so nobody goes mad with power. So um I'm willing to go for another couple years. Is there anybody who would rather be chair?
Go for it.
Okay. See, Bob, this is how you got stuck, right?
Yeah, exactly, dear.
All right. Bob and I were just talking before the meeting. Maybe some of you were on the call already. Bob's been sort of he went from being chair to treasurer mostly because he was doing me a favor because the chapter finances were in a bank account under his name. But I think Bob would like to not be treasurer. And we are going to be moving the funds hopefully within the next few weeks. This is what I was saying, Bob. You should come up here and we can go to Max's again and
All
then
right,
do a
deal.
bank thing. And Zan, you can come too if you want again.
Twist my arm.
But ooh, what if we made Zan treasurer? That would be interesting.
You deal. When I finish my doctorate, I will have much more free time, and I would talk about it.
Okay, but not yet. All right, we'll see.
Till then, I have a good excuse to say no. I have to finish school.
All right,
Yes,
that's
you do.
fair.
It's important.
But anyway, are there others involved? I see in this group, we've got, oh, JoJo's on, okay. Melissa is on the leadership team, Bob is on the leadership team. I think we are missing Chris and
Lisa.
Lisa. I don't know, I was getting stuck on her last name, trying to think it was her first name, and I wasn't getting very far. Bob, I know you're in more contact with them. Did they want to continue being on the leadership team that you know of?
Well, here, I think they're arriving back from Iceland today. So, Chris is retiring and going part-time, 1 July of this year. He may even have more time. I think Chris was on the leadership team because I twisted his arm
Okay.
and said, there's really no core that shows up all the time, other than Chris and Lisa at that point. I think we need to ask them what their feelings are in respect to leadership.
Okay.
I have asked Chris to be treasurer, and I got a politely hell no. So
Sounds polite.
yeah, I didn't ask Lisa though, to be honest, and
Lisa could.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll leave them in place unless anybody has any objections. But because it's kind of a loose leadership teamy thing, Melissa, are you interested in continuing? Good, 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 good. I hope, good. Is there anybody else who would like to have more of a, I don't know, I think of it more of kind of an executive committee thing where there's the occasional Zoom meeting that involves folks. Tim Jacob is on it. He's not here right now. He's kind of the computer guy, so I'm not willing to let him leave, and I think he remains
Yeah.
interested too.
right.
But is there anybody who's not on the leadership team who might be interested?
I'm looking at Gal and thinking, Gal,
I'm looking at the stairs. Okay, and we've got,
those two, another good set of picks.
so, all right, so we've got Natalie raising her hand. We've got the stairs ignoring me.
Oh, sorry, our mic was off.
My mom just had her 100th birthday and is taking up a little of our time. And
Wow.
little we have, we're heading to Long Beach to do a presentation in 2 days.
Okay,
So
so,
we would love to do it, but
Probably the
maybe in
next
a
time.
year or something.
okay, so skip this one, catch you on the next one.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right. Well, then, it looks like unless we want to have formal elections, and I don't think we do.
I move we take the people that have been nominated.
All right, so that means the
Need
slate.
a second and we vote.
Here, well, I
Okay.
can't second it. My name's in here. Somebody other than me.
I can second it.
Yep.
Great. Thank you, Pat.
All right, so just to clarify, the slate would be me remaining on as chair for, I guess, like another couple years. Melissa staying on unless they resign afterwards, Lisa and Chris staying on, Tim Jacob staying on, and us adding Natalie.
Great.
All right. So who was running the vote?
We just call for a vote then.
All right,
You can move for unanimous consent on that.
okay. I guess if you want to raise your hand, or we could say aye, whatever's easier. I don't think people's have their mics on.
Yeah, UT was a good decision.
I think it's unanimous.
All right. Okay.
Now back to treasurer, I didn't see a whole lot of effort on enthusiasm, but basically, folks, there's about 1,000 in the account. There really isn't any work right now. At some point, we'll get more serious about hopefully generating some revenue that could go into it. Once that happens, then I think as a chapter, we can decide what to do with some of the money, whether it be anything from student scholarships to some partial travel stipends to ECAD, or helping fund get-togethers that we have. That's kind of it, but I mean, it's not even worthy of a spreadsheet at this point. Okay, you can do it on your phone. I mean, it's really
Right.
very, very straightforward. So
I mean, I think if we set up the account, what I think is important though is if I do it, I could probably do it for the time being. I don't think we necessarily need a dedicated treasurer. But because banks are so weird, I want to make sure that whatever bank it's connected with is something that exists in all of the involved states, so that if it moves over to another person. So for instance, I would not do Fifth Third. I would not do, I didn't realize that Wells Fargo was not widespread, but there is not a Wells Fargo bank except for home loans in Michigan. But there is Bank of America and
yeah, and Chase, I mean,
What
Yeah.
about Chase?
Chase. Okay.
Is Chase State easy access to everybody or not?
Yeah,
I
it's-
just looked it up and at least with a brief Google search, it says there's no bank that currently operates in all 50 states, but Chase is the closest.
okay. So Minnesotans, are there Chase banks in Minnesota? All right, do I have anybody from Indiana? Okay, I know for sure Michigan, Illinois,
Yeah,
Wisconsin. I don't know if I've got all the states covered. All right, okay. I will keep Chase in mind.
Yep.
I think Chase is probably gonna make the most sense. And Bob and I will try to figure this out before the next meeting. And with chapter headquarters, I'll talk to Nancy McGee about it. She's sort of the head of chapters, and
Okay.
she's been encouraging this. So she's been really friendly, as the stayers know. So, all right. So moving ahead on the agenda, it's weird where we don't have a speaker, because I have more time to go and it feels much more official. I did want to talk about the annual meeting and do kind of a recap of that. So let me open that up. So some of you may know the Explorers Club annual dinner is part of a whole several days of different kinds of events. And on Thursday, before the dinner on Saturday, we had a trying to find my notes here. We had a chair workshop that was quite a long day. And I'm sorry, I had this all written out and I'm finding every document but the one I need. So let me just go ahead. So some of the things that were talked about, I'm just going to kind of go through this. And if you've got any questions about any of it, definitely let me know, but I might have you ask the questions at the end. First of all, membership cards and the digital transition. So you may have gotten an email that said, oh, we're not going to do physical membership cards anymore. It's good for the environment not to do that. We'll just go ahead and do everything electronically. Well, this was one of the biggest topics of discussion at the workshop because people were not happy with it. Richard Garriott mentioned in his talk that, and he's the president of, current president of the Explorers Club, for those of you who are on the newish side, that the digital membership cards are now controversial. One of the things they're trying to do is have an app for members, so it would be on your phone, and then you would be able to open up your app and have your membership card being on your phone. But in the WhatsApp discussion that's been going on with chapter chairs, there's still a lot of discussion about this. What they told us at the meeting was we've been heard, but that the powers that be kind of already made up their mind, which had a lot of us scratching our heads about who the powers that be are, who aren't Richard Garriott, who claimed it's not his fault. So anyway, we'll see what happens with that. I asked about certificates because those of us who joined in 2020 and soon after never got a certificate. I was told that new certificates are going to be sent retroactively to those who were not included because of COVID, and that they're kind of doing them in like reverse. So the people who got memberships more recently will get theirs first, and then they're going to try to go backwards with it. I have a very strong feeling that this is going to be something I'll need to revisit and ask about a lot for anything to happen.
Thank you.
It's annoying, but I would like a certificate. I don't have one.
They told us we would get one.
I know.
I didn't even know such a thing existed.
Yep, and we'll do our part to try to push to a little bit.
Okay.
At Lowell Thomas this year, in the Kon-Tiki Museum, they had framed Thor Heyerdahl's certificate, and it was beautiful. It was like a work of art.
Yeah.
And the membership chair and I were both looking at that, discussing bringing that very same format back. from what they were using in the 40s.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. And I think what they're missing out is the symbolic value of what these things provide. Because it's totally different just to hold up your phone. I mean, it just doesn't give you that same feel. And a lot of what we want is the sort of venerable, part of this tradition. We want the traditional things. So I will keep pushing as well. So that was one of the topics. Another thing was about the annual dinner itself. There's been a long history of debate over the cost. It's ridiculously expensive, however. A couple of things were going on. Number one, West Hansen of the Texas chapter, they organized an alternate dinner. And this allowed some people to have something to go to that wasn't ECAD on Saturday night. It also came up that the place that hosts the ECAD, the Glass House, the cheapest, like the per head that they have is $700 per plate. And that the EC50, the Explorers Club 50, who they do every year, are 50 people who are not necessarily on the radar of exploration, who might be, doing things that are not necessarily always considered exploration, or they might belong to cultures that aren't really involved in the Explorers Club. They have their tickets subsidized. But apparently ECAD raises $3 million annually, which helps keep the club operational. And that might be 1 million. I've got two different things written in my notes here. But in any case, it's hugely important as a fundraiser. So the idea of somehow reducing the cost of the tickets or having more tickets at cost or something like that kind of takes away from what the purpose of it is. Mark Brian Brown, who's on the board, he said, it's not just the dinner, it's the entire weekend. So people can come, and people do come and take advantage of a number of events and just don't go to the dinner or go to alternate dinners. He also was really emphasizing what the role is of chapter chairs when it comes, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, when it comes to new members and writing letters. So some of what came up, let me bring this up, is he said, chapter chairs need to see the sponsor letters as character references, and they need to be much more involved when members don't pay dues. And this has been not a huge problem in our chapter, but they will send out from headquarters this Excel of shame, basically, that shows who has not paid their dues. And we seem to have more people paying their dues than a lot of chapters, but we don't have as many members. And we're really supposed to kind of, as chapter chairs, go after the people who haven't paid their dues. And some of the chapter chairs said they have members subsidizing other members, which I thought was interesting. There was a lot of discussion about how we're supposed to make decisions about things in terms of if somebody's coming to our chapter, will we be notified ahead of time? Because this is a thing that happens where you might have two people sponsor somebody to get into a chapter and no one in the chapter knows about it. It just happens to be the geographical location of the person who got the letters written for them. And so there was some question about whether we could be informed ahead of time, but it was answered quite sensibly that everybody gets a list of prospective members ahead of time. And we're really supposed to go through and figure out whether we want those people or not during those 30 days ahead of time, especially as chapter chair. So you don't have to worry about that. Jeff Blumenfeld, some of you might know him. He's the chapter chair for the Rocky Mountains, was talking about the requirement of field research. And oh, Tim is in the waiting room. He just texted me. I will let him in. Sorry. I just had a notification flash across my screen. there's some discussion about what counts in terms of dissemination of research. So his question was, does an adventure skier who lectures and disseminates what they've done, is that going to be okay? So there was some discussion about that. Then there was talking about technology, and there is an effort. We don't have a dedicated chapter website, but we have a Facebook page, and I'm kind of remiss at that. In fact, I'd be very happy if somebody would take over the Facebook page. But anyway, they're going to try to sort of standardize what chapter chapter websites look like, and have somebody as a master designer to work with each chapter and get them connected to the brand. This is how this was discussed. I have in my notes here, wants to offer us architecture to log into our own WordPress site. They're raising money for a chapter branding exercise. There's a bid out for it. Need to go through the branding guide. So you can see there's a lot of very bureaucratic stuff going through. We did have Trevor Wallace and Emerald Nash come and talk about grants, and they're looking for people to help review grants. So if you are interested in that, let me know. Emerald Nash and Trevor Wallace, we had Trevor come speak through Tim a few months ago. They want people to do grant reviews. And if that sounds like fun to you, there are a bunch of different grants. There are so much demand. You do not have to be a member of the club to apply for the grants. Their funding rate based on application is 1%. So it's very, very difficult to get one of these grants. And they went through them, the different field grants. What they all seem to have in common is a very strong sense that people are going to be at the beginning of their careers. It's a leg up to help them, do research that will allow them to get a foothold. Also looking for non-traditional exploration backgrounds for some of them. But they've got a lot of information on the explorers.org website. If you are a student member, you might really want to look into these, or a term member, because there are options there. But it's very, 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 very competitive. Also, grantees can come and speak to chapters. And so that would be something we might want to think about, is asking people who've gotten some of the Explorers Club grants. Like if you went to ECAD and you saw somebody speak and you think they would be good to speak to us, that would be a really good idea. Wrapping up a little bit here, we did talk about chapter funds, so I don't want to go into that too much. And Bob said, let's get this organized before we think about fundraising or get ourselves a little bit going. But there was a lot of interesting stuff about fundraising, including some chapters that do, interestingly enough, non-mandatory dues, where you just ask the chapter if you can afford it, send in 20, 40, 50, whatever annually. And it does seem like it would be a quick way to build up funds for people who had, 20 or 50 or whatever that they were willing to throw in. So this was something that I thought sounded like an interesting idea. Also, apparently the club will help you get insurance if you rent a public venue. And also there was some discussion about if we have an event with a speaker that is an in-person event. And as we're getting further away from COVID times, we may think about doing more in-person things. Guests might be able to pay a fee. Club members or chapter members wouldn't, but maybe guests would need to pay $5 or something. And then I mentioned in here, even though I've got you guys going later, that the stairs have kind of a thought about chapter pins, which could or might not, or might be able to be a fundraising thing. And I have in my notes here about at some point having a fundraising Zoom. What I mean by that is kind of a brainstorming session on Zoom. But first we should get the bank account settled. So that's what I have from the workshop. Are there any questions? And I should let Paul back in because he got kicked out. No questions. Hi, Paul, welcome back. You're indoors now.
Here, I'll make a quick comment on fundraising. Yeah, I like that idea, Dina, but I think it has to be twofold. When, there are members of the chapter, here, me personally, willing to write a check,
Mhm.
but I need, what the hell are you gonna use it for? Okay,
Right.
meaning, if we have a pot of money, we will potentially, we don't have to say exactly what we're gonna do, but we'll potentially fund the following activities. Then I can get way behind writing, a check to the chapter. If we just go, oh, we're gonna build up, our $1,000 account to 5,000, I'm
Mm.
gonna go, well, why? What are we gonna do with it? So when you have, and I'm happy to help, when you have your finance subcommittee meeting, that you can then report out to the entire chapter, make sure it flows both ways in terms of the creativity, right?
Yeah, I think for sure. And I don't think we have to have a formal subcommittee, but I think ideas from the chapter at large would be really good and welcome. Yeah, no, you're making a good point. Some of the things that obviously come up are having speakers. Some speakers charge fees. We've been relying on folks within the chapter, which is great because we have amazing people in the chapter. But somebody had mentioned having Alan Stern come and speak, or somebody who's, a quasi celebrity who the closest we got was Brother Guy Consolmagno, but he's taken a vow of poverty, so he can't take it before. But in any case, there are some options there. There are options in terms of renting venues that we could host events at. But I do think just a general financial brainstorming Zoom would probably be a good idea within maybe sometime in June. All right, I'm seeing some minor nodding here. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions based on the chapter chair report?
Hey, Dina, I'm realizing I have no idea how many members are in this chapter.
I think the last time I looked, it was roughly 100. People were asking me that. That sounds right to you, Bob? Bob, you're muted. I don't know if you were answering. There we go. Oops.
Yeah, slightly above 100, something like 108. But then if you look closely, some of those folks are paying their dues to the club, but we've never seen them.
Right. And I think that is definitely a real thing. With the Google group, people can remove themselves from the Google group and then they just aren't on it anymore. But I think we've got kind of an active core with a few more people who are on the periphery kind of orbiting. So I think that's really what we're looking at, but there are definitely some folks who just aren't involved. I was told when I first got involved that there are some people who just want it on their CV or something, and they don't really want to do anything else with it. All right, other comments, questions? Okay, then discussion of chapter member activities, opportunities. I was gonna throw this out. This might be a chance for Paul to talk a little bit about what he's been up to in Minnesota. Is Paul still on?
Yes.
Yes,
Hello.
you moved from my screen. You weren't where you were before, so.
I switched from my phone to a better screen. So I've moved around a lot
through the Explorers Club over the last 10 years, been active with Rocky Mountain, with Southern California, at least never actually made it one of their events, but I've been to their virtual stuff. And then really enjoy being active here in the New York stuff and with New England. So as I come to join the Great Lakes chapter of the Chicago Great Lakes, just eager to meet other folks from Minnesota. So trying to organize, just number one, identify who are the people that are around us. I think we've got 6 of us, 6 folks that we're aware of there that have responded being from Minnesota. And then trying to organize an in-person meetup. We may do this in early June or the second week of June. Still trying to nail down a date that works for maximum attendance of people who are available. Yeah, and one thing that I'd say, it was too late to act on, but if anybody knows Lori Marker from Cheetah Conservation Fund, she was in Minneapolis for like 24 hours last week and reached out and asked me if I had or it just wasn't enough time to organize something, but that would have been great if we had this capacity to organize in-person events. So what's relevant of that, we'll let you know when we're organizing a meeting in Minnesota. We'll let people know if anybody wants to join, and we'll report back on whether or not this is fruitful, kind of like a little subgroup. Anything to add from my fellow Minnesotans that are on the call, Melissa?
Melissa,
Just, yeah, but thanks, Paul, for like trying to organize things. There have been a lot of dates going back and forth, and then people are like, yes, and then people are like, no, and which is very typical, but
Bob O'Hara, who I've wanted to meet. I don't know if anybody else has met him on the call, but he's kind of like a canoeing legend. And he offered to host the first meeting, but we have to catch him when he's not on a canoe.
yeah, he organized back when the Minnesota sub chapter was going, maybe about 10-ish years ago. We had a dinner over at his house, and he's got some really cool stuff. So it was a very cool house, and he was very nice to host. So,
and the other goal that I have in doing this is like, that's how I joined the club, was getting it. Someone invited me to go to an in-person Rocky Mountain chapter event. And so the goal would be to, as I'm reading like Minnesota Conservation Volunteer, reaching out to people, and we'll hopefully be inviting folks to meet us. And it's like a pyramid scheme, pull them in.
sounds good. So it's a recruiting technique as well. That's good. Did you, Melissa, get the other list of, you probably all had the same people, but I pulled a few more Minnesota people and sent them to Melissa. So I just.
Sure. I figured once Paul set a date and a time and a place or whatever, then I would, send it out to everybody again, just to remind, because, the whole big email chain is so long now that, but thank you for sending it.
Thanks. And Paul, you also set up WhatsApp for our chapter, but I really, that was another thing that came up at the chapter chair meeting. Everybody in Europe, everybody who's in other parts of the world are on WhatsApp all the time. And I think the vast majority of Americans are like, I don't know what this is. So if you're interested, there is a WhatsApp for our chapter that's just kind of sitting there right now, mostly.
There's also 2 other WhatsApp, like kind of really busy WhatsApp groups. One for the task force response. So basically after the Titan disaster, they've organized this. If you're at all interested in being part of the club's capacity to respond to contingencies, that's kind of that group. And then the NGen, for roughly speaking, 30-ish or under, although they're very clear. Some of us were like, what, we're putting an age limit on it? If you're a younger member of the club, there's another really good WhatsApp group for younger members. Highly encourage folks being, and the club is getting close to debuting an app, and the app is going to have internal messaging with hashtag attributes to it. So like, for instance, if you're a pilot, if you're a birder, you can kind of self-tag with that, and the app will there'll be messaging channels associated with tags that you identify on.
And I'll point out too, Paul was just elected board of directors, right?
Yes.
So we've got all this, we've got a mole. I'm just kidding. We wouldn't put it that way.
Please consider me the chapter's rep there. And if you voted for me, thanks. If you didn't, still, I'm grateful for the opportunity. And please, if anybody has any issues, like I aspire. My 3 goals as a director is I want the club to be inclusive to the wonderful range of us, including the chapters. And I think it's real easy in headquarters to kind of not to focus on New York. I want us to be responsible for how we're developing. So like the financial discussions and just as we're pursuing things like sponsorships and corporate sponsorships, make sure we're true to the legacy of the club. And then finally, making these decisions collaboratively so that, we're not announcing a decision that catches the club off guard. And now people are like, where are my cards? And just kind of, the club should function on collaborative governance, not on fiat by a small group of people.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you caught all of the discussion at the beginning where everybody really wants membership cards and certificates. So
yes, and
physical ones.
Message received.
Okay. So that's excellent. Moving, continuing.
The one final comment I'd make on the WhatsApp, Dina, is that the WhatsApp will probably sunset sometime this summer or this fall as that app comes online. Or that's at least the club's vision for communications.
That makes sense, because I can remember the very old version of the website where, it was painful, like how low tech it was, but there were kind of forums where you could recruit people to go on expeditions and start ideas and, and that just disappeared. And I remember asking Richard Garriott about it, and he was like, oh yeah, it'll be back on, and it has not appeared on explorers.org, but I suspect it would be part of what's going on with the app. So we'll see. But as awkward as it was, at least it was a way to connect to people with similar interests. And you mentioned the tagging, but I think the more direct requests are really good too. And people would appreciate that, especially if they're newer members of the club or need to work on their exploration resume for sure. All right. Other thoughts about activities and opportunities? I don't want to put you on the spot, Bob, but are we thinking about Saugatuck in August again? Whoops, can't hear
Well,
you.
here, I don't want to be pushy with Saugatuck, but I am more than happy to host it again if people had a good time, and I think they did. We
Yes.
can do it again. That's fine. So why don't I come up with some tentative dates and run them past you, Dina, and we can send them out to the group and see what the response is.
That would be fantastic. Does anybody have other events or things that they're thinking about for the summer that could involve other groups, other members of the chapter? Whether it's an in-person event that could be chapter connected or research or an expedition where you're looking for additional people.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim and I would be glad to host it in person, like sometime in July, because we usually do Saugatuck in August, right, Bob? And
Yeah.
so we do an in-person here. We've
got the shoreline harbor about a mile and a half away. And we could, weather permitting, take a boat out. We've got a couple of kayaks, couple of
paddle
boards and nice beach.
And we can just kind of make it an afternoon. We've got an in-ground pool. We can seat 20 on our deck, between 20 and 25. And then our living room, we can seat about 18. So we could do a presentation.
We got a basement also.
Oh.
That's a pool table, ping pong, and a bar.
Yeah.
That was our COVID project.
Nice.
So we'd be happy to have whoever would want to come over for an afternoon or whatever.
That sounds
So
good.
we
Sounds
post
great,
that, see
yeah.
if people-
Yeah. Of course, those are both in Michigan. I don't know how.
Yeah, that's the only trouble.
Yep.
And you guys
We're
are
the opposite, the very end of Michigan.
right,
We're
Eastern
on the
edge.
other side.
Anything going on in Chicago? I'm looking back and forth between Gail and Tim right now. I'm not
mean, I'm-
asking you to.
I'm doing
Yeah.
a beach cleanup, but
Okay.
anyone's
When is-
welcome to join in that.
When is that, Natalie?
It's gonna be, I think, September 16th or 21st.
All right.
That's in Chicago?
I will, yeah, I'll send a general message out with the little advertisement we make and put that in the group email, I guess.
Natalie, do they still have the Chicago like underwater film festival? They used to combine that with the beach cleanup. Have you heard anything about that?
No.
You know, usually the University of Chicago hosts it,
It
I
was a
think,
couple of years ago,
a
yeah.
couple of years ago.
Our World
before-
Underwater.
Oh,
uh,
yeah, that's shut down though.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
shut down. They took over for a couple of years. We haven't heard from
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, I miss that. I miss that world underwater.
Financial demise, I think. Not enough people signed up
Yeah.
for it. Because we used to go to it always.
Yeah, the cleanup I'm doing is gonna be on September 21st and it's gonna be close to Waukegan, so in Illinois, so I'll share more info when I have it.
Fabulous. I like the idea of a beach cleanup because you get to be at the beach, but you also get to be doing something that's
Yeah, you
helpful.
can also do data with the garbage collection. You can do literati and do like some data on it and what kind of garbage you're getting and stuff like that, so.
Archaeology.
Yeah.
I know archaeologists who study trash. It's a thing.
I don't study it, but I might count it.
And I mean, if anybody has anything where, you know, you hear about an event that the chapter would be interested in. Vicky, I feel like you had something going on where you weren't sure whether you should address the chapter directly. And then I encouraged you, but now I can't remember what it was.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering about the GLEX summit. And so I did write, and a couple folks replied, and it was actually really helpful. Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say.
Is anyone going to Glex? I will be there. Anyone else?
Not.
In the end, I couldn't fit it in with my other travel, so.
I'll report back at the next meeting about how it goes.
I'm weirdly homebound this summer because my husband is voluntarily going off to help renovate my mom's house before we sell it, but that's in California. And I'm here because his mom, who's got dementia, lives next door to us. And so I could do day trips and a couple overnights, but I can't do anything with any length of time. So I'm definitely feeling a little stuck. But
Bravo for doing that, though. A big reason why I'm retiring from the Army, I have a 49-year-old brother with Down syndrome and quite aggressive early onset Parkinson's. And my mom just turned 80 and is full-time caretaker. So I empathize and kudos for doing that.
yeah,
It's a
and
lot of
with
work.
stairs too. I think a lot of us are in very similar situations.
I've been there a couple years ago and I feel for you because it's a huge responsibility.
It's a lot, but it's worthwhile. I mean, it's so important. So
Mm-hmm.
Nathan, you're like actually on camera. Hi.
Yeah, I've been running around getting stuff ready for tomorrow a little bit, listening and
Sounds good. One thing that occasional chapters will do, and it's harder with us because we're so spread out. Northern California has field trips where they all go off and visit someplace or something, hike in a cave somewhere. But there are also museum trips. And because Chicago's got so many museums, I was wondering if that might be something that any Chicagoans would be interested in organizing. you know, something where the chapter could come and, I don't know, I always think of the Field Museum or the Shed Aquarium, but I know.
No, I think the Field Museum has a new exhibit on the oceans. I don't know. I'd have to
Yeah,
look.
that's right. It's deep ocean.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Dina, there's that one. I also know two, or actually one professor up at Chicago University really well that helped run the museum. I could probably reach out and ask.
Okay. I'm going to be in Chicago anyway on the Friday the 21st because I'm taking my son to the Billy Joel concert
Oh,
for his
yeah.
birthday. But we'll be around that Saturday, so I don't know what people are up to. Also, I mentioned Max's. There's it's not really an, I don't know. Both Zan and Bob have been there. It's a tiki bar. It's more of a tiki palace. It definitely has some exploration feels, but it's definitely just more of a place to like hang out and have some very nice rum drinks. So if anybody is interested in coming out to West Michigan for a Max's run, let me know and I will organize. I know the owners, and they're very nice, and it wouldn't be like a formal meeting or anything because then they'll charge us for it, but we could have a big group and go up if we needed to. All right, and Minnesota's got their stuff coming up, so just a quick show. How many of us right now on the call are in Michigan? Okay. Illinois? Minnesota? Okay. Indiana? Wisconsin? That's what I thought. Anybody who's not in those places? I know, Nathan, where are you, in Georgia?
Yeah, I'm down here in the southern heat. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, all right, just a little roll call. All right, next thing I have is updates and announcements from members. And I told the stairs they could do their announcement in the section.
We have been going to like ECAD and stuff, and a couple other groups have giving us, chapters, their pins, and tried to recruit us. And we kind of wanted to have our own pin with our logo on it and things. And we tried to get one done for ECAD, but people were dealing with, we had to go through a couple different revisions. And what we thought is that we would purchase them ourselves and try and sell a few to recuperate part of our monies and then donate the remainder to the club to use as a fundraiser. It's our logo, and I can try, and I don't know if I can show you where you can see it or not.
Right there.
Yeah.
We got them 2 days ago, just before whatever, and they've got our logo out there a little bit bigger than a dime. And
They're the
so-
same size as the Explorers Club lapel pin. So,
And it came with
so
the
you can, you know, wear one, you can wear one on one side, one on the other side of your lapel or something. But we thought, you know, we have Texas lapel pin, and we kind of decided we wanted a Great Lakes one rather than a Texas one.
So if anybody is interested, I'll let you, we talked, and we don't really know what we, should sell them for. A lot of the clubs are selling them for around 15. But this one's just a little more expensive, not much. Pat didn't want the post on the back. You poke through your clothes, so we got a magnet. So they can be taken on and off real easy.
Yeah, so they're a magnetic pin.
Oh.
And the reason they were also a little bit more expensive, we have the details of the Great Lakes, and they had to be offset print because otherwise, when it was just a raised metal, the thumb became very square. It just,
Lake Superior
and like
was-
in the islands were it was just not right. So that's why
So
we
these
had
are-
so many. Also the lettering, so many letters, that was a little bit of a challenge. Because, you know, it says Great Lakes.
Well, it's
um,
our logo.
It's
It
our
looks
logo.
just like
It's
the
just
logo.
like the logo.
It's not just one place, it's Chicago/Great Lakes. It takes up.
I'm-
Yeah,
I'm sure you know this, but the club pin costs $25. I'm just for a point of reference, if you were to buy it, and the only people that can buy it are people that are members. But it's 25.
well, we were trying to think of a price that would include shipping. So
Right.
that people aren't having to send us shipping or whatever. So we were thinking somewhere between $16 and $18. We would recoup our money, and then all the rest we would give to somebody else
We-
to sell, so we could raise.
We got 100
Fund.
of them,
Yeah,
which between 50 and 100, there wasn't that much difference price wise.
One potential thought, especially if you have excess, the club store, you could probably give them to the club store and have
That's
them.
what we want to, yes.
Do you have a point of contact for that? I can provide it offline after this if you want.
no. Well, I think what we really want to do with it is raise money for our chapter.
Yeah.
You know, that's the goal. You
I
know,
think if you had them, you know, for sale, you know, shipping, like if people could write to you, Venmo you, send a check, whatever would work, let us know. And I think a lot of us here would do it. I think we could also send out information through the Google group. But it might be good to have extras when we have in-person events
Right.
yeah,
and sell them there.
like, you know, that's what we were thinking. You know, it would have been nice if we all could have recognized each other, because we all had a lapel pin, you know. We were I was going up to people who showed up and say, now, are you part of the Great Lakes chapter? Because
Trying. A few of us got together. I think I saw almost all of you in person. Paul, I don't think we ever connected.
No, I didn't have any way to recognize who people were.
But I don't know if the lapel pin, I think next time we have to wear like a feather on our hat or something.
Jim and Pat, can I get one of those before Glex?
Sure. Now we're leaving in 2 days. We're speaking out at the scuba show in LA, and we won't be back until Wednesday, but
after the meeting, if you want to just send us your address and everything.
we'll send one out to you, but we've got to do it tomorrow, really.
Do you have PayPal or Venmo? If you
We
can,
have
PayPal.
okay, email me your PayPal details and I'll send something out to the group. And I don't know, I'm thinking you should just round it up to a 20, but that's just me. See, look at the nods.
Yeah, okay. If we did that, then we'd recoup our money sooner, and we can then raise money for the club.
Jim and Pat,
Just don't-
$20. It's a good deal. Just, it's easier number. You know.
Go for it.
Okay.
So yes, just even before I don't know if you have a chance to, before you go on your trip, but the sooner the better, just send me your PayPal, like how people can find you on PayPal. And what you need from each person in terms of like an address. Do you need anything else? And
Just address and
Yeah, just an
we,
address.
we sell our books and DVDs through PayPal quite a bit.
I just had this very old fashioned moment of you don't need a self-addressed stamped envelope from anyone.
Yeah,
So are you heading out? Okay.
We're leaving Thursday morning for LAX.
Okay. But yeah, email me and I can get that underway and people will know that you're coming back. I mean, if you
Yep.
want to wait, but I'd say within the next week if you can.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, we'll get it to you tonight, but if anybody really needs them, we tomorrow is it, and until next probably Thursday or Friday.
Is that is that also something we could highlight in our update in the log? Just because I think it's a cool one, it's a great initiative by Jim and Pat, and could be helpful. Good idea for other chapters to see.
The next time that comes, the last deadline was May 1st, which was a weird one because it was 4 months later instead of 3. Now that Angela's taken over for Lee, it's a little different, and I'm trying to get used to the rhythm. But I don't think the next one's going to be probably until August.
And it doesn't have to be us, it's the group that we
Yeah,
just,
no, we can
Yeah.
highlight.
just say the group decided to do this, and
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
a
A
couple
lot,
of
a
us.
lot of people probably would be, it would be helpful for them to see the process because they,
Yes.
someone want to do it, but it may be easy to you, but the mechanics of it is what would be helpful if it was explained. I think that's a great idea, even if it's a couple months from now.
yeah.
Exactly, Gil.
Yeah, if you can write something up, I will definitely include that. And I don't want to put you on the spot, and I know you've got a lot going on with Jim's mom, but you were talking about a newsletter at ECAD.
Oh, yeah, I thought we should have a newsletter. I just thought like Mark's got his museum opening up with the dinosaurs, and people are going to like Iceland and things like that. If we just, I mean, I'd be willing to put one together, but I am terrible speller and I can't proofread words because I just don't look at endings. So, but I can do graphics. So if people just sent pictures and a final draft, I could put together a newsletter if we wanted to.
Yeah,
Pat, in a former life, I was a magazine editor. So if you need an editor, I'm happy to
Oh,
edit.
that would be wonderful.
oh, this is good. I like the synergy. By the way, Tim, we kept you on the leadership team. I don't know if you want to leave, but you can't. So
No, I would love to stay on it.
okay. Any other updates or announcements? I should get back on Zoom so I can see people.
One more thing about the newsletter. What do you think if we highlight a new member each time? That way we can eventually get to know everybody.
Yeah,
Because, I see faces, but I have no idea what your field of interest is. And I think,
right. And when we talked about introductions, Jojo wasn't on yet, but Jojo, you're very new. What could you introduce yourself? Oh, we can't hear you. I've put you
You're
on.
muted, Jojo.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm the newest kid on the block. Dina, it's so nice to see you again after the NASA Investigators Workshop when you interviewed me to be one of your subjects.
Back in
Because this-
2020.
Oh
right
gosh,
when
yeah.
COVID hit. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Jojo Sison. I live here in Bourbon, Illinois, which is about 60 miles south of the Chicago Loop on I-57. I work on a regular basis as a physiotherapist. Interest is space physiology and miscellaneous things. I'm not sure where to begin, but I like to talk. So motivational stuff, mental methodologies. But anyway, I'm the newest member, so I'm just kind of getting a feel of everybody, like what their interests are, what the general dynamics. And I heard there's Natalie has a cleanup. I want to know what that's. I'm fairly close to Chicago, but
Right.
so what it is about. So things like that. See if I can get involved. I have to thank Nathan Marks for inviting me over because I invited him to be part of a project I had here in the Kankakee County. I built a military memorial, so he happened to be just an ROTC captain during that time. So I got him in, and I got the memorial built. But anyway, I'm not sure if you have any questions for me. I'm just kind of getting a feel what's going on, how I can contribute. Of course, juggling time, that's always the hardest part. Meeting up is always good, depending on schedules. Again, if I can lead, that's fine. So I'm open for any questions. I'm just not sure where to begin. There's so much.
You're fine, Jojo. I knew that because you're new and hadn't been in one of the meetings before, people probably were curious about who you were. So just wanted to bring you to everybody's attention.
Oh, great. Yeah. Glad to be here. I was wondering, are there any Filipino members? I'm originally from the Philippines. Are there any other Filipino members for the Explorers Club?
I'm sure there are at some point, there's one of the chapters, but I don't know that we have any other Filipino members in Chicago Great Lakes that I've come into contact with. We have, far more people in the club or in the chapter than attend events, meetings. So it's possible that somebody I haven't met yet is Filipino and I just didn't know.
Yeah, because okay, because usually the Filipinos who have some kind of technology I speak a lot in the Philippines every time I go there, almost every year, and the culture is very giving, very smiling. That's why anytime you go to a cruise, you'll see Filipinos working because the culture is so giving and so accommodating. I was just wondering, but anyway, glad to be here. Glad to meet all of you indirectly, and hopefully we can interact more and become explorers of humanity for the good of the earth.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Welcome. Thank you. All right, we're kind of over by a couple minutes. I think the categories that I had in my agenda overlap a little, kids. I was doing in-person events, suggestions, invitations when we were doing activities opportunities. So I will just switch it to open comments. If anybody has got anything that they've been sitting on that they want to say. Gail.
Hi. I joined the club in 2000, and this is going to be news to you, Dina. I joined the club in 2008. I applied with my sponsors. And if you all remember, 2008 was the big financial crisis. My sponsor, who is the Dive magazine editor, said, Doug and I, our expedition background mirrors each other. You should both join. And our decision was no, because one membership and one initiation fee was all we could take. It was a very hard fall for us in 2008. So of course I joined, and I have been, having a very good experience.
I always come to the meetings.
Yeah, and Doug comes to the meetings. He is a wonderful guest, but Zabignu and I decided that we were going to nominate him to be a member after many years, since 2008. And we did it. We did it kind of quickly, and not to cut you out, Dina, but we were just like speeding, because when I called membership, they said, oh, you got to get it in by X. Right. So we did it. It's in. I think it's received well because it was put together well. I talked with the people there and they were very impressed. I think we're going to have a new member, and he is, he'll tell you more about what he's done, because we've done the same thing, but I'll wait till he becomes a member. I'm very proud to have him be a member. He's a little bit up in years, but who cares? So am I. So just thought I'd let everyone know, and you can see him. He's right behind me. He's kind of quiet, but he's a brilliant man, and will be a terrific addition to the club.
And am I remembering the name right, Pat?
Doug.
Who is Pat? Okay. I met somebody else who was a Pat.
Mostly they call him Don, and I don't know why. Douglas. But again, forgive me, Dina. You're on the application as being, someone we know, and but I
know in the club.
And if you want me to send his application or anything, I'd be glad to do that. But I
didn't know spouses could nominate spouses. So
that's why I called. they said, absolutely, absolutely, and,
I'm filing that away myself. Okay.
yeah, and, so, and then Zbigniew is a, fellow photographer, my husband's, not of the rank of Zbigniew, but, so I asked him, because he knows Doug very well, and, so that's how we got it done, and I think we got it done. I'm very good at getting things done when I'm up against a wall, and the membership of a young man named Patrick there put me up against a wall for timing. But then,
Perfect.
so maybe next meeting, we'll have a new member.
Right.
Celebrate.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
That's
Celebrate,
exciting.
right.
Glad to hear this. All right, so
Great news.
as we're ending here, just kind of action items, just to have them in my head. I'll call for some kind of a financial brainstorming meeting sometime in June. I'll update you on that. We're gonna get information about the pins that will come through from Jim and Pat. And we've got Jim and Pat hosting something in July. We've got Bob hosting something in August, dates to be determined. Natalie's cleanup in September, possibly a museum visit, it sounded like, in June or July. Chicago people, let me know. I'll send something out about Max's. I don't know how many people can get to Grand Rapids. I know some of you can, so that might be more Michigan centered, but Illinois people everywhere, everybody else is welcome. Am I forgetting anything that's like an action item? And I got your note, Zan, so thank you. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm saying okay while I'm reading things that people have sent me as notes. That's not very helpful. But Camilla, I saw what you wrote. Okay. So anything else, or shall we bring this meeting to a close? Oh, I did remember something that I want to mention. If anyone has ideas for a speaker or wants to volunteer as a speaker for an upcoming Zoom meeting, or for either, I'm maybe being presumptuous, but something at the Stairs or something in Saugatuck,
Yeah.
please let us know. Let me know, and then I'll pass that along and we'll figure it out. Because we may just have meetings. I'll try to do a Zoom, like I said, in June for the financial predominantly, but we may have a chance to do another summer Zoom with a speaker as a meeting as well. All right.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks
Yeah.
for sticking
Have a
around.
good evening,
Good night.
everybody.
Deanna, should we make a deadline for articles for newsletter?
Newsletter? Yeah. If you want to go ahead with that, for sure.
If does a group want to go ahead with something like that or not?
Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm seeing nods and thumbs up, so I think it's a good idea.
Okay, let's I don't know, think of a deadline.
All right. If you want to organize stuff and want me, just send it to me. I'll be the clearinghouse person.
Okay, sounds wonderful.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Good to
night,
see you
rest
all.
of your
Night.
week.
Bye.
Congratulations on being renominated for president and everything.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Do you want Pat to give you the information?
Really would be better.